Hey, this is Ken M.
Padawan J.
Coach Duffy.
From the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour podcast. Every week, the ODPH is talking sports, movies, TV, comics, and more. It's always a parlay of topics on each episode. You can find the ODPH on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and wherever you find great podcasts, such as the one you're listening to right now. Don't forget to check out OchoDuroParlayHour.com, where you can find the links to all of the ODPH social media accounts, links to the bands whose music you hear each week on the show, hashtag 607 podcast info, and parlay points, our companion blog section of the show. Thanks for listening to the ODPH. Now get back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Hey there, this is John from Pint Comics.
And I'm Lloyd, also from Pint Comics.
And I'm the other John, and you get it by now. As you may know, we sometimes use language on this show that can be described as...
Filthy.
Okay.
Reprehensible?
Crude?
Sure.
Nasty.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, guys. We all know that it's just plain out gutter talk.
You've been warned. Listen in.
Pop goes the weasel. That was not a beer. That was a seltzer, which if you don't know this, I'm going to tell you. That means that Sir John and the Manster aren't here again. COVID-19 strike, week 2, strike out. So you got Ganache here, and my wife Lindsay's here with me tonight. Lindsay, what's going on?
Not too much. How about you?
Get the mic in closer to you there.
Okay.
Just a little bit.
Better?
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, we knew we're going to have to do a couple of pickup episodes without the boys, and Lindsay enjoys her seltzers, so I said, you know what, crack a seltzer for us, Lynn. So
That was a good crack, too.
It was good. What flavor do you got there?
Raspberry lime. No natural flavors.
None at all?
None.
Raspberry lime. So does that taste like shit like most seltzers do?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
It does have that seltzer taste,
Seltzer.
so if you don't like that, then...
What is that called? Quinine?
Quinine, and I think it's mineral water or something that
It's
has
so
that.
fucking gross. I wish I could drink seltzer. I really do. I envy the people that could lose weight drinking seltzer. But I could lose weight eating horse shit too, probably, and I'm just not going to do it. What's your favorite flavor?
Probably Polar's, what is it, cranberry clementine.
That sounds like shit too.
It's delicious.
It does sound delicious because I like cranberry and I like clementine, but I just know it's going to taste like shit. All right, so COVID-19, you've been home from work for, what, 2 weeks?
No, I just started working from home on Friday. I went out on Saturday, and now I have not left the house since that point. So
I got to give you props because I'm still going to work, obviously. I've had 2 days off this week, which is unusual for me, and I've spent every waking minute at home, basically, other than being at work.
This is like your nightmare.
I'm honestly, today is rough. Like, that cabin fever thing doesn't affect me, but it affects me. I truly feel like breaking through the fucking wall like the Kool-Aid guy.
You get kind of Jack Nicholson-y.
Do
Not
I?
murdery, but you do start getting crazy eyes.
Yeah. I there's only so much TV I could watch and so many comics I could read and so many podcasts I could record.
And this is sort of like my jam. I'm home with the dogs. I keep wearing my pajamas.
You're not even going to know how to use a zipper eventually.
When I have to wear real clothes, I'm going to be very confused.
When you have to put shoes on, you're going to be fucked. Oh, boy. And I don't mean slippers either. So we said, let's do an episode. And so I kind of wrangled you in. Can't have anybody over right now because of the COVID stuff. So I said, you know what? You're going to be my little, I guess, podcast partner, Frankenstein. So I said, you know what? We haven't done it in a while. We do movie episodes a lot. Let's do a 100-proof book project. And you're not a comic reader, right?
I am not.
Well, you've enjoyed an occasional issue here or there.
Rainbow Bright was decent. I read a few of the My Little Ponies.
Yeah.
And I read like Casper as a kid, but not, I haven't really read any.
Nothing like Marvel, Marvel Universe type stuff, DC.
Not at all.
So what book did I say to you, let's read this week?
Black Widow.
Black Widow. So this is the Black Widow series from 2016. written by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee. Chris Samnee is the artist, but it's credited as written by the two of them. And from what I was reading, apparently Samnee came up with most of the plotting, and Mark Waid did most of the dialogue. So that's pretty cool. Artists who, a lot of these comic artists also write, but he's one that I wasn't aware did that kind of stuff. And he's one of my favorite artists too. So.
And why did you pick this one for me?
Female protagonist. I mean, not to sound, I just figured maybe it'd be a little bit easier two reasons. Number one, female protagonist, it might be a little bit easier to kind of like grasp, or not grasp, but like get into for you. Mm-hmm. And number two, although this is moot because of COVID-19, the Black Widow movie comes out in 2 months, and I think yesterday they announced it's not coming out in 2 months because nothing's coming out in 2 months. So I just thought, and from what I understand from seeing the trailers, this looks like it might be semi-based on this run, a tiny bit, like some of the ideas of it. So I figured, hey, this is a good idea. So I get a timely idea for the show, and I totally fuck it up because Disney's not going to release this movie on, I think, May 2nd or May 1st. Oh, fuck me. This was a 12-issue run from 2016. This was right after Marvel did Secret Wars, which was a big company-wide, kind of event crossover. And Mark Waid and Chris Samnee had just come off a very successful couple-year run of Daredevil. So they came off Daredevil, finished that off, and then Marvel, I guess, from what I was reading, they said, hey, we got Black Widows available, and they said, let's jump on it. So they're going from there. So they take over Black Widow, 12-issue run, and I said, you know what, we could do all 12 issues, but you kind of were, you're doing work during the day. You're kind of a slow reader, I noticed, with comics. Although you did a great job, I noticed you were really pouring over them. So I said, let's just do the first 6, which I guess from what I read is considered a arc unto itself. If you go onto Amazon.com or if you go to your local comic book shop, you could buy the trade. It's called Shield's Most Wanted, Black Widow Shield's Most Wanted, and that covers issues 1 through 6. So I'm getting tired of talking. I'm going to ask you real quick. Give me the bumper sticker idea of what this book is about.
It's about a spy, a female spy. She was trained as a child to be a spy.
To be an assassin.
Right.
Bad stuff. KGB, Russians, all that stuff.
Yeah, she refers to it as child brainwashing, I believe.
Yep.
Seems like a decent person and trying to make the right decisions now that she's kind of on her own. It's referred to that she's good looking several times. Different ways throughout the book, and how people recognize her because of her face. And I was kind of thinking, well, and her bright red hair and her tight clothes.
Well, yeah,
like you're really not going to be a wallflower in this outfit,
right? So
if you're looking for that, then you got to tone down some of
tone
that
it down
stuff.
a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, good for you, but like it's hard to be what's the word I'm looking for?
Inconspicuous.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you have bright red hair and tight clothes and.
So what is give me the general idea. What is issue 1 through 6? What is the general plot of the book?
The plot is that she has to steal something from S.H.I.E.L.D. and you learn that it is because she's being blackmailed by the Weeping Lion. And then it takes her through her whole story, doing what the Weeping Lion wants. I don't know how far you want me to go with that.
That's fine. So essentially she's being blackmailed by this kind of terrorist called the Weeping Lion. Plachlev, they call him. It's the Russian word for Weeping Lion, I guess. And she's a S.H.I.E.L.D. She's not a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent necessarily, but she's been a good guy for a long time. She was obviously trained to be a bad person. That goes back into Marvel history. Eventually, she becomes a hero and freelances for S.H.I.E.L.D. quite a bit. So she's trusted within S.H.I.E.L.D. And the very first issue kicks off with her. The first issue was fantastic. Did you enjoy the first issue?
I did. It took me a little bit to understand what was happening because I'm not familiar with the S.H.I.E.L.D. and anything like that. So for me, it opens and it looks just like a normal office space, and they're announcing over the intercom that she's now an enemy of S.H.I.E.L.D., and things kind of kick off right from there. It's
a real testament to Chris Samnee, his art and his I guess this book is heavily, especially the first issue, very much reminds me of storyboards in a movie. If you're not familiar, storyboards are, you see a scene in a movie, you see an action scene in a movie. Someone, an artist, has drawn that out in completion. And then when they go to shoot it, they use that to reference each shot. So that first issue feels very much like a storyboard to me, which, we got this movie coming out. Maybe they took some of that from it. But what I liked about that was that you're right. It starts on in the S.H.I.E.L.D. office setting, and that's as far as you know.
Right, and it kind of made me chuckle because anybody who works in an office realizes the silly office politics that happen, like who left, no coffee in the coffee maker, and why is there no creamer, and there's just stupid fights like that. And maybe some people have fantasized about beating up their coworkers.
So you were thinking of it like in I guess like a pragmatic way. Like, what if I was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. as like an accountant or an HR person? Would I go after the Black Widow? If at your work they announced that and then you saw this dangerous woman running through the halls.
Oh, I would be hiding in the bathroom pretending I had no idea what was going on.
Okay, so she's running through the halls. She's getting this resistance from the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, beating the crap out of them left and right.
I noticed that most of the agents that she beats up are males.
Yeah.
I think there's one female in the book, and she's actually driving that flying car.
Yes, well, Maria Hill is the first female we meet. She's in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point. You know probably from the movies Nick Fury. He's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the movies and all that stuff. He's long gone in the comic books, so Maria Hill is the new head of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay, that's putting some more of the story together for me.
Right. So one of the best parts of that first issue, I thought, when you mentioned the flying car, is the fact that the way this is written, you think this is taking place in a high-rise or something. You don't realize it. And then she jumps through a window, and you have no clue what it was she came out of, right?
No, and then when they draw a picture where she's closer to the front of the scene, you could see the ship in the background.
Yeah, the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier.
The S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier.
That is S.H.I.E.L.D.'s... Again, I know you don't remember stuff from movies very well, but they're in the movies. They play a big part in Captain America 2, the Avengers. It's basically a flying battleship carrier.
And they're the good guys.
S.H.I.E.L.D. are... Yeah, they're roundabout the good guys. They're definitely... They're a espionage tactical organization. So, of course, that could also be considered, they spy on people. But yes, they're force for overall good, I guess you would say.
I was just going to say, it goes where she jumps out of the window and they show the helicarrier in the background. And she's fighting guys in the sky. I mean, this woman's like an ass kicker.
She's essentially James Bond, okay? Think of it that way. She's essentially Jason Bourne. This is the character she inhabits in the Marvel Universe. She's not super powered. She does have certain elements about her. There's no super strength. They reference it several times in this book. She ages slower. I think that there was
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was kind of reading about that. I think at some point in her history, there was probably some kind of like mutagen added to her or something. She's not a super soldier, but she probably has a little bit of that in her.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I thought maybe it was just part of her character. Like, she's just so good looking, everybody has to comment on it.
Yeah, well, no, I think they made it a point later in the book when she meets up with her headmistress, who is now a fucking hag. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. She is crackly looking.
She's crackly looking, and she makes it a point. Some of us have aged better than others. So
right.
So Mark Waid, the guy who writes this, he wrote the Fantastic Four at one point. He had a long run on the Flash. He did a miniseries that I'm going to mention that Sir John absolutely fucking hates called Superman Birthright. It was a redo of Superman's origin, and he had a book called Empire that was a creator-owned thing. I think it was originally through DC, and then I think it was published by somebody else. And Chris Samnee had the run on Daredevil along with Mark Waid. He did some work for The Rocketeer. And after this book, so they did Daredevil together, they did Black Widow, and then they did an arc of Captain America. These guys have worked together quite a bit. Did you take down note? Do you know the Black Widow's real name?
I did. I took a note. It says Natasha Romanoff.
Natasha Romanoff. It's actually originally Natasha Romanova, but they wanted, at one point in her history, they wanted to give her a more Americanized sounding name, part of her cover, I guess. So created by Stan Lee. You know who he is, right?
I do.
He's got all the cameos in the movies.
Right, the older gentleman.
The older gentleman, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just watched Thor Ragnarok. He was the guy that gave him the haircut. Remember?
Oh, okay.
That was Stan Lee.
Yeah, I was so fixated on the crazy scissor hand thing.
Yeah.
That I just couldn't get past that.
That was Stan Lee, yeah. All right, so we get through issue 1, and you realize that she has stolen something from the helicarrier. I think we both had the same issue of it. As the story went along, a little bit, it wasn't super clear what she stole off the helicarrier.
At one point, we find out that the Weeping Lion wants her to steal a key, but I just can't figure out if she's used that key yet.
Yeah, I fully admit, I understand the plot of this book. I reread bits of it to kind of get the idea of what she stole from S.H.I.E.L.D., and I'm still not 100% sure. I get what the Weeping Lion is blackmailing her with. I get what the Weeping Lion wants, but I don't really get what she stole from the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier.
I don't understand that either, and I didn't know if maybe we get back to that in books 7 through 12.
Yeah, very possibly. Very possibly. Because, again, this does end at 6 in terms of it has a satisfying ending, but it's an open ending where you know there's more to come.
Right. It's almost like the end of a season of a show.
Correct. Right. Very good. Yeah, it'd be like you would finish season 2 and you know season 3 is coming and you know there's more of this stuff happening.
Yeah, you're definitely still invested, but you're happy with where you ended.
So what the Weeping Lion, okay, and his group, what is he blackmailing her for, and what is he blackmailing her with?
He is blackmailing her to get the key from the helicarrier is the first task. He gives her some files that are really damning, and they don't really go into detail about what those are, but she would be very upset if it got out.
But they go into detail on one in particular.
Later on in
at
the
very
book,
end.
Yep.
So what was he looking for her? What did he want from her? What is he blackmailing her for?
He wants the Red Room files.
Which is basically, as they describe later on, the Red Room. Okay, so what's the Red Room?
The Red Room appears to be a school that Natasha went to as a child, and they are preparing these kids to be assassins.
Brainwashing Russian children, girls, into the Black Widow program, which is training them to be spies, assassins, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
So the Red Room files that he's looking for is basically, it's like a key. It'll give him the answer to everybody that's involved in it.
Right, he would know all of the assassins that have been trained.
Correct. All right, so the first issue ends. I wanted to point out, and I'll show it to you later on, there's a trailer for the Black Widow movie where there's a scene where she's basically skydiving, and there's a building falling apart, and she's fighting guys, and they're kind of running across pieces of the building that are broken up. You have to see it. It looks very much like the entire car versus her versus jetpack guys in this book. So I just think it was interesting that it looks like they're going that way.
Yeah, that is pretty neat that they're following it.
It seems like they're following it, I guess is a better way to put it. All right, so issue 2. What do we got in issue 2?
So issue 2 actually goes back in time to 1 week earlier. So you get to start, because you still don't know after the first book what is going on. You don't even know Weeping Lion is part of the situation.
Yeah, the very last thing someone says to her in the first book is the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent she beats the hell out of.
They said, do you know what she stole from the S.H.I.E.L.D.? And something about, I hope it's worth it. And at the end, the Black Widow says, so do I.
Right, and did you notice she had the chance to kill the guy and she didn't kill him?
Yes, I did notice that.
Right, okay. So I wanted to make sure that you understood that she's not going to murder S.H.I.E.L.D. people.
Yeah, which is great.
Right.
That's part of the reason I like her.
Okay.
So the second book opens and it says 1 week earlier, and it's at a funeral, and there's 2 agents talking. And after talking to John and kind of reading through the book, I realize it's Agent Elder and Agent Hill. And they're actually discussing an agent who has passed on, and they're talking about how it might have had to do with the Black Widow in some way.
Agent Elder obviously has a problem with the Black Widow.
Is it Agent Elder who has the problem, or Agent Hill?
No, Agent Elder.
Okay.
Yeah, he feels like she's a freelancer, and he's mad at Hill for using her because he feels she puts real S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in jeopardy. And in this case, he believes that led to this woman's death.
Right. And they talk about how the cemetery is only known by S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's a secret cemetery, so they could all meet and mourn the loss of their agents.
Yeah, that was a cool little, like the woman being buried, it's just numbers on her headstone.
Yes, I actually made a note of that because it's interesting. No names, just the numbers.
Yeah.
Eventually they pan out in the frames and they show the Black Widow is like up on the hill with a gun, and she's looking around with the scope of her gun, and she sees other men or women with guns heading towards the 2 agents.
Right, and these are the Weeping Lions people.
So she starts eliminating those people to protect the agents. Then you kind of learn that it's almost like a triple cross because the agents are actually there for her.
Right.
And so they take her captive.
Well, the agents aren't there for her.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
The Weeping Lions people who she thinks are there to take out the agents at the cemetery are actually there
For her.
for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
They take her captive, and then the next frame shows her in the middle of all of these men. She wakes up, she kicks their asses quite easily.
Very easily, yeah.
Yeah. And then that's when we first meet the Weeping Lion.
Big guy. He's in a jacket with a ski mask on.
Right. So you can't really, well, obviously you don't see his face, but he is a big form of a man
He's
there.
a big dude.
Yeah.
He's got like a tear always coming down.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. There's different points. It's not always. There's certain points where I think he kills someone. He kills one of his own men, and he's got a tear coming down.
And this is when he hands her the files that he's going to blackmail her with. And she can't believe that he has that information because she thought she, eradicated any
trace of what this stuff could tell. Basically, this is all stuff she has done in her past, that she knows she's done in her past, that even though she's been a bad person in the past, she was confident that it was all gone and that it could cause problems for her in the future with people that she's close to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how he blackmails her to steal the key from the helicarrier.
Right.
So now you kind of understand what happened in the first book and why. Yeah, so she agrees to do it.
So he's blackmailing her. She's going along with it. We eventually end up finding out that he wants her to get the files for the Red Room. He's saying that there's a new Red Room started called the Dark Room.
Right.
And he kind of sends her on her way to find that.
Yeah, she's walking down the streets in New York City, and a couple guys walk by and just say, your next mission is to go to Russia, and you're going to have your, what is that fake name?
Alias, yeah.
And what was it, Kennedy? French?
Yeah.
I don't know why I wrote down that note. I thought it was interesting.
Hey.
So she heads over there, just kicking some ass again.
She kicks a lot of ass.
She is an ass kicker.
She'd be useless if she wasn't, really. I mean, she's that's kind of the point of the character. But yeah, she does. She kicks some more ass.
And before she leaves for Russia, Agent Elder actually spots her, and she sees that he's following her. So she clotheslines him at the ankles. He falls down, and then he loses her.
Right.
So when she gets to Russia, she beats up more men, like we were just talking about.
Beat him up.
Yeah, just kicking ass. Well, at first, when I first read this, I was like, oh, she sees a bunch of young women in the woods learning how to fight. I wonder what this is about. And it really turns out that it's a flashback to her own training.
One of the ways that you could discern a flashback a lot of times in comic books is differentiating in kind of like tone or color.
Okay, I noticed that I took me longer to read these because I'm not used to reading pictures.
You're not used to reading comic books, yeah.
Right.
That's kind of why I wanted to do this episode with you. And this turned out to be a pretty good exercise in that.
And when we get to book 4, I want to read how I read the sound effects, and then I want to give you the same page and have you do what your brain hears when you read.
Well, we could just do that now. What do we got?
So in the 4th book, there's a scene where she has Agent Elder in her car, and it's in a parking garage, and there's a lot of action here.
Okay.
And they use a lot of descriptive words.
Onomatopoeia. That's when onomatopoeia is when you make a noise or write out a noise kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Like Wolverine, when his claws pop out, it's always snicked, right? That's what it's spelled out, S-N-I-K-T. Spider-Man's webs is thwip, but kind of the way you hear it in your head is, you know what I mean?
And I don't hear that. I hear what it says. So here she is driving, and I read in my head, my brain saying, Chok braka ak ak, P-tang, braka braka brr, braka raka braka.
Okay, let me see. Now, when I read this stuff, I just hear it as sound effects. But if I were to translate it into a sound effect using the chok braka aka is like chok braka braka, like that.
So it's an engine revving?
It's kind of you know what? Hold on. Let me because I wasn't looking. It's a gun. So it's kind of like that. Right.
See, I wish my brain did that one.
Yeah, it says braka braka braka, so it's just like that repeated machine gun sound.
Maybe I need you to do the sound effects.
I would
for
love
me.
to do that. I would love to just be paid to do sound effects from a comic book. That would be fantastic. 3 issues in, right? Or let's say 3 issues in. Are you feeling drawn into this story, or are you getting tired of reading it?
I was drawn in. I think book 3 was the hardest for me, trying to decipher what was going on, because there was a lot of flashbacks.
Right.
There's a lot of extra things going on. There's a scene where she's fighting, and it shows the fight scene, and then it shows her as a ballerina dancing.
Her background is she's supposed to have been a ballerina.
I thought it was really neat, but it took me a minute to understand that it was kind of a blend of current.
Yeah, it was showing you her movements in the fight and showing you how it would have translated to ballet.
Right.
But yeah, no, I didn't pick this book out because I thought it was going to be this way, but it was kind of a happy accident that it's kind of a book that, the first issue is heavily dialogue low. There's not a lot of dialogue on it. It's intense on action. And it's taking place in a situation that you're not sure what's happening.
Right.
So, and then you get to issue 2, and it's 1 week earlier. Now, I can tell you as a fact that you probably were able to discern that much better because in the last 15 years on television, that's become a huge thing.
Well, that, and it was helpful because in the upper left-hand corner it said 1 week earlier.
Right. Well,
and I was like, okay.
Well, what I'm saying is TV shows have done that for quite a while now. Where sometimes they'll start, the show will start at the end,
right,
and then show you how we got to that point. I think people's brains are getting. That's a comic book thing, and it's been used more, lately. But it's always been a comic book thing for them to do that.
So after she has a flashback of seeing herself and her other colleagues training, she starts walking through the school and having more memories. And while she's in there looking around, there's a couple of armed men. I guess they were sent by the Weeping Lion as well, and they were looking for something. They spot her. Of course, she kicks their ass.
She has to.
And in the background, there is a picture of a window, and if you look through it, there is a person standing on a building with a flowing scarf.
Right.
And I didn't really know what that was, and we don't find out right away.
Essentially, what that was she starts having flashbacks to when she was a little girl assassin. And there's a point where she has a flashback to a night when she kind of escaped from her dormitory and gets stopped by this girl, Anya. Anya is the daughter of the headmistress, who is the woman in charge of the Red Room, right?
Right, and she seems to be mocking her because she's the headmistress's pet.
She's her daughter. She's not a Black Widow candidate. She wants to be, though. Natasha leaves the compound and goes and obviously kills somebody or really hurts somebody badly. A target.
Well, I think she kills him because the headmistress says that the wound she suffered she wouldn't have survived if he wasn't on his last breath.
Right. Okay, you're right. He did say that. She did say that.
And I guess it was a unique knife or whatever.
So the headmistress brings her down into this special room and sews her up. And after the headmistress leaves, Natasha, in the past, hides the knife. She pulls the knife out of her boot and hides it inside of what was it?
It was a bookcase.
In the current time, Natasha is in this room again, and she's kneeling down by the bookcase, and she realizes that there's someone behind her. And it's a great little panel where you see her kneeling down, and she goes to get the knife. It's not there. She turns around, and what happens?
A little girl stabs her.
Stabs the fuck out of her.
Yeah, she does. She goes for it.
She goes for it. So that leads us into...
go for it. Go for
it.
Go
for it. Go for it. Go for it. So that leads us into the next issue where she is now she's waking up. And I don't know if this is a pre-existing character because I'm not a huge Black Widow fan. But a guy named Yosef has taken her in and is healing her.
Right, and when we first start reading the book, there's a bunch of frames, and it kind of shows her going in and out of lucidness or lucidity. I don't know what the word is.
Silent lucidity. So I guess it would be lucidity?
Hug me.
Yeah, hug me.
Hurt me.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
So it shows her...
If you've ever heard the song Silent Lucidity, right? And you know that during the guitar solo, there's a bit where a woman's voice says what I always thought was "help me." You just hear her go, "Help me," if you open your... that whole thing. So it pops up on our music TV with the lyrics. The fucking lyric is "hug me."
I don't know if that's accurate.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up because it's so weird.
So now I can't sing it like "help me" or "hug me," so it hurts me.
Hurt me. Yeah, it's funnier that way, but. Help me, that song is kind of like this. It's just weird. Hug me. I don't know.
It is weird.
It is weird.
So the book opens, though, where she's going in and out of consciousness. We'll just go with that word.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool because it shows, different times when her eyes open, what's happening. And also during that time, she has a flashback of herself being mean to Anya. And there's a scene, or a frame, I guess it's called. She's being mean to Anya, and they do a close-up of Anya's eyes, and her eyes are like, bitch, you're going down.
Yeah, Anya's not a big fan.
And that's the first clue I got. This Anya's coming back. There's something going on with her.
Yeah.
Because she's pissed.
She's not only pissed, but eventually Yosef tells Black Widow that he knows where the new dark room is, and he gives her kind of like, it's near, very near where we are right now. So he tells her, you're gonna have to go in there and find it, and that's where you'll find, this new program. She ends up leaving him. She ends up getting to this new high-tech facility. She breaks in, and when she breaks in, who does she find?
The headmistress.
The headmistress now.
Looking all crackly.
Very crackly.
Very crackly. Like, get this woman some moisturizer.
And Anya.
And Anya's there as well.
Who now seems to be called Recluse.
Right.
The headmistress calls her my little recluse. Mm-hmm. And I think that was what Natasha had said to her earlier.
Right. She said it in a very rude fashion,
right.
And she kind of took that and
it's like she's taken it and ran with it, yeah.
Yeah. And you could see that there's a lot of tension between her and her mom, who was the headmistress.
She even makes the point to tell her that she is now her mother's boss.
Yes.
She's
paying reparations.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to go back to is in Yosef's cabin, he gives the Black Widow some of his weaponry, and he makes it a point to say that it's old school weaponry.
Yep.
And they spend the day training. So I don't know if those weapons will come into play later on.
I thought the same thing. They didn't. She spends the day there training with old school weaponry, and she never uses any of it.
No, and Yosef makes it a point that this dark room, they're training with the latest state-of-the-art
munitions.
Weapon. Yes, exactly. So I really thought that would come up later, but as far as I can tell, it didn't.
Yeah, it seemed like they kind of glossed over that. I agree with that as well.
So I'm still confused about the key and the old school weaponry.
Yeah, I'm as dumb as it sounds, I'm still confused about the key too. I'm still not 100% sure what it was. I get how everything moves in this, but I'm still not sure what it was she stole from the helicarrier.
Same.
Yeah, because it seems like you could say, oh well, it was the answer as to where the dark room is, but Yosef tells her that
exactly. Yeah. Yosef knows where it is.
When she gets to the dark room too, the headmistress gives her the files.
Yeah, like she didn't even really have to ask that much.
She doesn't care, apparently, if everybody's name gets out there. It doesn't matter to her, because I think it's like a dead program.
Right, and she saves the Black Widow's life in a way because Anya wants to kick her ass right away.
She wants to kill her.
Yeah, she does. And the headmistress points out that the Black Widow's obviously not 100%. She got stabbed by that little girl.
Right.
And sets it up for a situation later on.
Right, which I'm sure we'll get into in issue 7 through 12. I think she knows that Recluse or Anya's entire existence is based on wanting to be better than Natasha, and she basically tells her, you don't want to fight her now because you're not proving anything.
Well, right, and she still wants her mom's approval,
right.
Even though she wouldn't admit that, and that's probably why there's so much tension between the Black Widow and the Recluse, because the headmistress spent time with Natasha.
Right. Well, I mean, that scene where she stitches her up when she was stabbed, when she kills the guy when she was younger, it's very, it's kind of very loving. She's got her on her lap. And
she starts off very scolding, like, you shouldn't have done this, and this is what could happen.
Right.
But then she ends it. Yeah, it was very loving.
All right.
Like, I'm teaching you something that you will probably need to know.
So we move on in the story. Agent Elder comes back into it, right?
Yeah, let me just point out that she did really hand those files over. Like, it's harder to get a Dunkin' Donuts coffee than it is to get those files.
She didn't care about the files.
She didn't care about the files at all.
Yeah. But, so the files were important enough when Agent Elder comes back in, because what happens at that point?
So, in book 5, it opens up where the Black Widow is sitting at a cafe, and there's a lot of talk of who's watching her, and there's a lot, chatter. I see her, and we're going to go get the package. Agent Elder pretends to be the Lion's guy. We don't know that Black Widow knows that he's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Right.
So we're kind of being dragged along. But she has him follow her elsewhere.
I kind of felt that she knew, though, myself, only because... And I what you said was correct. She knows that he's a SHIELD agent.
Oh, yeah, but in the
Right.
book, it doesn't say, like, Black Widow knows
Correct.
this. Yeah.
Correct. I'm sorry.
So she takes him to a second location because she knows that the Lions team is there, too, so she's trying to save him. So they get to this parking garage, and he...
Brecka, chug, chug,
Yeah.
chug.
Chugga, chugga, chugga. Anyways.
That's kind of the sound right there.
Bereka.
Yeah.
So while they're in the parking garage, he's shot in the stomach by one of the Lions men. So she steals a car, which she just happened to have a screwdriver up her sleeve.
No. She didn't have a screwdriver up her sleeve. She wears those gauntlets. She used the gauntlet earlier in the book. It's one of the Black Widow's things. Those gauntlets are like weaponized. Remember there's one point where she's fighting a guy and she uses it to blast him.
I don't remember.
It's like it electrocutes him.
I don't remember it.
Okay, so essentially she doesn't have a key or a screwdriver. She has like a skeleton key built. It's almost like the Black Widow's gauntlets are Batman's utility belt.
Okay.
She's got shit in there.
Right.
I love that. She kind of makes a fist and the
I could
skeleton
really
key
use
pops
her.
out of her gauntlet.
I could use her around here when I'm trying to build something.
Yeah.
Because I can never find that goddamn screwdriver.
Yeah, it's in one of the junk drawers.
Maybe I should get these gauntlets.
We got like 4 junk drawers. It's the problem. I'm just letting you know. Take care of it.
Oh, boy. So she gets in the car. She steals it by using her gauntlet tool.
Yeah.
To,
the widow key.
Yeah.
I guess. I have no fucking clue.
And then ensues the whole her trying to get away and all of those awesome sound effects that go on in my head. Eventually she has Agent Elder hold on to her, and they jump from the building, and they're immediately met by 2 more of Lions guys.
And Agent Elder does something you don't expect him to do for someone that he made it a point he didn't like very much.
Yeah, he actually blows them all up.
Yep.
Everybody but the Black Widow, and he blows up the files.
Yep. So he makes sure that nobody can get their hands on it.
I bet the headmistress has more of those files, and she's just handing them
copies.
out. Yeah.
She gives them out at Halloween. There's kids in like fucking the darkest reaches of Russia who get chunky bars, a Kit Kat, and then like fucking this dossier of all these names they don't understand.
The headmistress hates filing.
Yeah, she's a real cunt. All right, so once that stuff's blown up, who has a little bit of a hissy fit?
The Weeping Lion has a hissy fit, and he kills the messenger.
Yeah, and that's where when he kills the messenger, he breaks the guy's neck or whatever, he has the tears coming down again.
Okay, and then in those scenes, too, you see a small person sitting in a chair, and they kind of just highlight the evil eyes, but you don't see who it is.
I don't remember that. I'm going to have to go back and look at that again.
It's the real lion.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, that I remember. I'm sorry. The real lion is actually like a youngish guy.
Yeah.
Who's a telepath, and we'll learn about this in a second, but the guy that we think is the Weeping Lion the whole time is kind of like, think of Master Blaster from Mad Max Thunderdome, right? The blaster is the muscle. That's kind of the Weeping Lion that we've met. The real Weeping Lion is Master.
Right.
Yeah.
2 men enter, 1 man leave.
Who run Bartertown? That's the dude.
Okay.
Okay, so we get to the end of that issue, and the Weeping Lion says, fuck you, Black Widow, I'm going to release your secrets. Who is the person that is going to be affected by this secret the most?
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark, Iron Man, that's right. Mm-hmm. And the very last part of issue 5 is we see Iron Man kind of flying out of the city.
Right.
Looking pissed off.
Yeah. He's got resting bitch face.
He does. What is it? RBF, resting bitch face.
Yes.
Yeah. So we find out in the next issue that he finds her. Okay.
Yep, she's on a
payphone.
A payphone. I wonder if the kids these days know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I barely recognize it.
A telephone box.
Yeah, I saw a payphone somewhere recently. Maybe when I was in New York City for Toy Fair or something, and I was like, holy fuck.
How much does it cost to make a call?
I didn't go near it. You think COVID-19's bad? Go near a fucking public phone in New York City. You'll have AIDS within 5 minutes. It's not good.
So, the beginning of this book shows Tony Stark in his workshop, and he's listening to the radio.
Yep.
And the radio is talking about what the Black Widow did. And apparently she helped assist in the murder of, I think it's Ho Yinsen?
Not the murder.
But the capture.
She captured Ho Yinsen. So this is where I got a little bit confused in terms of... So here's the long thing. So Marvel has been around so long that they have to constantly kind of re-update the origin stories to make these characters not seem 1,000 years old. So Tony Stark's original origin story, because it was the early 60s, was World War II, I believe, or Korean War. He ends up in the cave with Ho Yinsen. Ho Yinsen is the scientist who helps him build the Iron Man costume, uniform, armor, whatever you want to call it, and ends up getting killed in the process. Eventually, they changed it to Vietnam, and eventually after that, they changed it to Afghanistan, because it would make no sense that Tony Stark, being probably 35 years old in the Marvel comic universe in 2015, would have been in Korea.
Right.
You know? So it was weird. I wasn't sure that I guess they're always keeping Ho Yinsen as the character that helps him, though. So that's who Ho Yinsen is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she has a flashback.
So essentially, her kidnapping Ho Yinsen
led to his death.
And also led to Tony Stark becoming Iron Man.
Right?
Yeah.
So she has a flashback of how she captures Ho, and she poses as a widow at a funeral, and that's when she captures him.
Right.
So back to the telephone box.
Yeah, the AIDS-giving phone box.
Yeah. She is very dramatically talking into the phone. Her what is that called? Body language.
Oh, okay.
Whew.
I had no clue what the fuck you were doing.
This must be past my bedtime. Her body language is that she's, really getting upset. And she's she's confessing to whoever's on the other end of this line, and she's asking for help. So Tony Stark, having all the technology he has, he finds her voice in the payphone and finds her.
Right.
And she appears to be all beaten up, and he immediately was like, you look worse than what I was planning on doing to you.
Which is bullshit. He wouldn't hurt her, but he's mad at her.
Well, he's a hothead, so.
Yeah, he's a drunk.
Is he?
In the comics, yes.
Wow.
He's recovered. But, oh yeah, one of his most famous storylines is called Demon in a Bottle. Huh. He was such a drunk that he couldn't be Iron Man anymore for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So she kind of apologizes, said she did do it. She needs a place to stay. So he brings her back to one of his many apartments.
Yep. In Paris, right? They're in Paris?
Yeah.
Right.
He immediately changes into a tuxedo and says he's not a farmer.
Yeah. Which I think Mark Waid must be a fan of 30 Rock, because that is a great line from 30 Rock. And you brought it up to me, and when I read it, I thought the same thing, is that there is a scene in 30 Rock with Alec Baldwin's character and what the fuck was Donnelly? Donaghy, yeah. And he's the head of, he's one of the heads of NBC. And Liz Lemon, the Tina Fey character.
Liz Lemon!
He comes to visit him, and he's changing into a tuxedo. And she says something to him about, like, why are you putting a tuxedo on? He's like, it's after 6 p.m., Lemon. I'm not a farmer, And Tony Stark uses the same. He would say, we're in Paris after 6 o'clock. I'm not a farmer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She tricks him into letting her into the main part of the apartment.
Yep.
She knocks him out. She accesses his computer, finds the address for the Weeping Lion, steals a few things, and heads out.
Do you know, I didn't ask you, do you know what she stole from him?
She stole the address of the Weeping Lion. And then the ray thing.
The repulsor, yeah.
And then something to keep somebody from reading her mind.
Correct, because she knows. At this point, she goes to see the Weeping Lion. Weeping Lion comes out and tells her that I'm the Weeping Lion, the kid.
What kind of voice did you use in your brain for him?
I don't know if I did. Well, what did you use?
It was kind of like a like a
like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't always assign voices. A lot of people do that with comic books. I don't always assign voices. Some of them I hear in certain voices, like cartoons and stuff like that.
Yeah, I didn't for anybody else, but when I saw him, I don't know, he has like a punchable face or something.
Yeah, oh no, he definitely, he's a little douchebag. So, he essentially tells her that he is a telepath, and that's how he's been kind of, he doesn't tell you necessarily why he wants these files on the Red Room, right?
Right, and then she mentions, you could have done this yourself if you were so awesome.
Right, and she kind of also says that you obviously proved that you might not be the best telepath in the world because you couldn't make the headmistress give you these files.
Right. Maybe that's why she was so crackly.
Right. Yeah. So he tries to control her mind, And much to his surprise, she pulls her hand out and she's got a palm repulsor on, which is the weaponry from the Iron Man armor. And she blasts him through a fucking window. Not to his death. He's still alive. But she tells him essentially that, I also have a device in my ear that keeps telepaths out.
And he looked very scared.
He looked very scared. And she essentially, what does she tell him at the end? She kind of walks out and in a roundabout way says, now the game is starting.
Right. Yeah. He looks scared, and he should be scared.
Right. And that ends issue 6 and leads into issue 7. So there you go. There is the plot of issues 1 through 6. We pretty much went through every issue. We don't always do that in the regular show.
I'm kind of a nerd.
No, it's good. I'm glad you did. So based on that, I have all 12 issues. I pulled 7 through 12 out. What are the odds you're actually going to read these fucking things?
If we do the show, I'll probably read them.
If we don't do the show, you seem like you enjoyed this story. Don't you want to see where it goes?
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
So overall, 1 through 6 didn't do it for you then?
No, I liked it. It was just hard for me to get through. I'm just not that into comics.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd rather read a book like the Abby Jacobson one that I have right there.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Ooh, even Echo's getting mad at me.
Yeah, he's like, fuck you. Comics are great.
I'm not saying they aren't great. I'm just not sure that I would continue reading the series.
Okay. It's only a few more issues, 6 more issues.
I might.
All right.
Maybe.
All right.
Maybe if you leave them around.
I'm going to read them. I'm interested to see where this is going.
I want to know what happens with that damn key.
I don't know if that's even going to matter anymore.
And the old school weaponry.
Again, I don't think it matters. I would have, the old school weaponry thing I would have loved if they showed while she was infiltrating the dark room facility that she had to use like a fucking slingshot or something. Like, again, you're right. He does make the statement. You can't go, I don't have the type of weaponry you need. I have all old school stuff. You're going to have to spend the day training with it. And then we get to that point and she never uses it.
No, is this like an introduction to the Black Widow?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I was thinking maybe because he, excessively praises her for her ability to learn quickly. I didn't know if that was maybe like a roundabout way of building her character.
No, this is supposed to be a character that's been around for a long time.
I'm going to write to this guy and say, what the hell with the old school weaponry?
Yeah. Well, I'll read issues 7 through 12 since you're fucking not interested at all. Despite the fact that you just seem very enthused for the last hour talking about this comic book.
Maybe I'll read it.
Yeah, Jesus, man.
I told you, it's after my bedtime. I'm getting cranky.
You're like John when we talk about a movie on the Invitational, and he's like, he's all into it, and then like,
I am sitting in John's seat right now.
And then, well, John, what do you give that movie? 1. It's like, well, you were just like, you're all happy about it for an hour. It's like, no, it was trite.
I'm feeling your crankiness, Sir John.
I think she might have gotten the John bug. Sir Lynn.
Next, I'll be scolding you with Lloyd's dad voice.
Yeah. Remember that? Were you here the night? Or I don't think you were recording.
When he yelled at Lou?
Yeah.
And growled at him?
Yeah, he got very, yeah.
I can't see it.
I miss those guys. I miss them. Oh, boy. Well, anyways, so that was fun. So if you had to rate on a scale of 1 to 5, okay, the first 6 issues of this Black Widow series, what would you give it?
I would probably give it a 3.5. I know I keep bringing it up, but the key and the old school weaponry, it really bothers me that both those things seem like a really big point in the book, but we haven't figured out why.
I feel like
if it goes anywhere.
I feel like the key is something me and you both must have like missed somehow.
Well, I even went back and kind of looked through it again.
I did too.
Maybe
totally did
some
too.
of the listeners know.
Yeah, maybe if you've read that, if you could explain what she stole off the helicarrier. Yeah, it's a major plot point. I'm not really fucking sure what it was.
It really kicks off everything.
Yeah. I don't know. All right.
Unless it was just putting her in like a bad place with the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
There'd be no reason to do that.
Well, if they're not on her side, then she's going solo. Maybe singling her out makes her more vulnerable.
They could have just blackmailed her. You know what I mean? Just said, you're going to do this.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you don't have good logic, but it doesn't make sense in the end. So your logic sucks, I guess is what I'm saying.
Or my logic's really good.
Yeah, or it's really good. I would say I'd give this probably about a 3.25. Chris Samnee's art. Okay, so you're an artist. You like to paint. You do stuff. Did you appreciate the art in this at the very least?
I did very much. I appreciate the art in a lot of these books. just seeing the ones that you bring home. I really liked, I think it was book 4, where she's standing there holding hands with, they almost look like paper cutouts of other girls.
Okay, yeah.
And she's hanging on to them, and they're kind of hanging on to her. And I just thought it was a really neat cover.
Yeah. All right. Well, I love Chris Samnee's art. Mark Waid was once kind of snarky to me at a Comic-Con. So Mark Waid's one of those writers that I like, but I don't love. You know.
If you ever turn dark, you could use that time.
Yeah.
To fuel your rage.
There you go. Yeah. His Daredevil run was fucking fantastic. I'll give him that. And the Black Widow's a character that I honestly don't really give a shit about. I'm not a huge fan. As hot as she is, she's played by ScarJo. You know.
Yeah.
ScarJo.
Cool.
All right, so we're pretty much at the end of our hour here. We're going to do an hour show. Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to say to the people out there? Is there a comic that I can get you to talk about that, like, you might actually go, I'd read past, like, the first 6 issues or something?
I'll have to think about that. Okay. I do appreciate the female characters that have good morals and they're strong physically and mentally.
Yeah, I don't know if she has good morals, really. She's an ex-assassin.
Well, I know, but she's trying to right it.
Right, she's on the right path.
Right.
All right, so that's been Pint of Comics. This has been the 100 Proof book project with Lindsay. Lindsay, thank you so much for filling in for those two guys that couldn't be here again tonight, because
we really miss you guys.
We do. The world is fucking upside down right now. Hopefully people will be able to listen to this, and if I put it out in a couple weeks or whatever, and things will all be better again.
I feel like I haven't seen Lloyd in months.
Yeah, no, it's been, we talked about it on one of the last episodes. It's been a weird last couple months, so hey, it's life, and we're moving forward. So I've been Ganache, and this has been Pint of Comics, and I'll leave it to Lindsay to say the line that John and Lloyd usually end up saying. Lloyd says it more than anybody else, I think, but I'll let you say it.
All right. I always get performance anxiety and then worry that I'm not going to do this right. I think it's just see ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!